Hey everybody, this is Jason, back with another movie review. This time I'm going to be talking about 11/22/63, Episode 2, which is titled The Kill Floor. In this episode, I had high expectations. The anticipation of the preview that came out that I saw after Episode 1 made it look outstanding. And honestly, Episode 1 was so good that I was wanting more. But like I said in the previous video, I watched these when they came out on Hulu, which came out every Monday for 8 episodes. So I had to wait for the following week for the next episode. So it was hard to wait sometimes, honestly. But now if you get the Blu-ray and DVD, or you subscribe to Hulu, you can binge watch the entire thing, which if you have a whole day to or 8 hours, 8-9 hours to give, I highly recommend just continuing on. It always just leaves you hanging in a good way, and what you want more out of it. So this one, I'll probably explain a little bit about some of the differences from the book to the movie. Even though the events are somewhat similar, mostly similar. So what happened at the end of the... Oh, I should go back to that. He went straight to Dallas from Maine, which in the book he did not. He did the events of what happened in Episode 2 first, before he ended up going to Dallas. So they kind of switched that a little bit. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. So you saw in Episode 2 that he went to Dallas, decided he did not want anything to do with saving JFK, and decided he was going to go back to Maine and go back to his present in 2016. But he decided to stop in Kentucky, Holden, Kentucky, first, to see what he can do to help Harry Dunning and their family from being murdered by their dad. And that's in this episode. You meet 2 additional characters that are definitely in the book. The first one is Harry Dunning's father, and Josh Duhamel is the one that plays this character, and honestly, he did a great job. You don't see him that much in this entire series. However, he does bring you a lasting impression of his character. And I think Josh Duhamel did great on what he had. So that he did great. He was menacing. You were afraid of him. It made you feel like if you were there, that... and you saw him in real life, that you'd be afraid that you would totally avoid him. Although in the end of Episode 1, you did see him as a somewhat of a family man, somewhat. He drove up and saw his kids, picked them up. I think he was going to take them to some ice cream shop. So you're led to believe that, that there's no way that this guy could do this. Which I think they did perfect. In the book, it's the same way. It's like, they describe this guy as, he was different behind closed doors as he was to the public. Everybody in the city, in the town, thought he was a wonderful guy, and and they were shocked to find out what he was capable of doing, which he did. And before Jake went back there, he murdered his entire family, and Harry Dunning was the only one that was left alive. So what happens is you also meet another character of Bill Turkett. And honestly, in the book, you hear about this guy. In the show, he's portrayed as a young guy who's about the same age as Jake. But in the book, he's an older gentleman who is kind of following Jake around. Everywhere Jake goes, he kind of follows him in the background, and you just don't know who he is. And once I get to that part of the show, I'll tell you the differences. So Bill Turkett is the bartender at a bar, and that's where we're introduced to the father of Harry Dunning. His name is Frank Dunning, so Frank, we'll call him Frank. And that's where we meet, and Jake, has to tell him a story of who he is, really, and what he's doing there. Jake also tells Bill that he knows of Frank, and this is kind of what, Frank finds this out, and he's like, hey, I don't know who the hell you are. Who are you, and how do you know me? So I think in the back of his head, he already knows that this guy is full of crap, and he's suspicious of him, a lot. So at this point, Jake stays at a rooming house, which is, there's some funny moments here, some of the stories that he has to make up the last second. One thing, for example, is when he's sitting there eating dinner with this family. The guy, he was in World War II, and, he asked him if he had served, and Jake did say he served in the Korean War. And he's like, oh, really? Which unit? And of course, he said the 4077th MASH unit, which is out of the TV show. And of course, at this point, he wouldn't know that. So I thought that was clever that they threw that in there, because it is a real unit, and it's believable. So it is a little nod to MASH, the TV series. It's pretty funny at the moment. And to speed things up, there's some things that happen in the middle, but Frank stops by, takes Jake on a little drive over to his butcher shop. And that's what he owns a butcher shop where they make the beef, so to speak. And this part is a little cringeworthy, although it doesn't show anything. They do take a cow into the slaughter, and Frank is telling him, hey, to prove who you are, you will take this mallet, this huge mallet, the one that supposedly he will murder his family with, and you will kill the cow over there. Of course, Jake couldn't do it, and Frank does. He bashes the cow's brain in, which, I'm definitely not a fan of. It was cringeworthy to watch. It still is to watch this day, even though it doesn't show it. But just the thought in your head, they left it to your imagination, which makes it far worse, in my opinion. Which, again, this was meant to show how sinister Frank Dunning really, truly is. And during this episode also, Jake is trying to get the family away. So he goes over there to the house and pretends that they've won something. This is when Frank's gone. He doesn't live with them any longer, but they think they've won a trip. And on the day of Halloween, which is when they're going to be murdered, they should go to this place. I forgot what exactly it was, but he's thinking that if they're gone, that Frank won't kill them. And unfortunately, Frank finds out about this thing that Jake just did, and they meet up at his butcher shop again, and you see that his wife, Harry Dunning's mom, is, I think, black and blue, like she's been beat up by him, and Frank just assumes that Jake's there to sleep with his wife, and that's what happens. And they let them go, and the day of Halloween, the night of, Jake's scoping them out at the house, and Bill Turkett shows up. And this is where you find out that Frank Dunning killed his sister. I think her name was Claire or something like that, but he murdered Claire as well. So Bill did not like Frank at all, and he wants to murder him himself. And here's where it kind of changes a little bit. In the book, pretty much is the same thing. However, after Frank gets killed, which I should spoil it a little bit, that Frank does get killed here. But in the book, Bill Turkett has a heart attack, and that's it. You know, you don't hear of him again. In the TV series, however, they have promoted him to a side character, to Jake. Because in the book, there's a lot of narration, and they didn't want a voiceover. They wanted somebody that he could travel along with on his journeys. So it makes sense. But I'll talk about Bill Turkett a little bit more later on in the series of how I felt later on. But so far, I like it. However, so what happens is Jake ends up killing him by strangling him, and everybody's safe. But you think that, honestly, at this point, Jake drives off, blood all over himself, and he's going to leave town. And his idea is he's going to go back to Maine and go back to the present time, 2016. And I guess Bill Turkett has been following him the whole time. And he finds a newspaper clipping, which I still don't know how he did it, but it showed a little clip of JFK was murdered, you know, so it showed the future. And at the end of part 1, they had the little fire. All his notes got burnt, and somehow Bill found that little clip, and he wants to know how the hell he knows this and what the hell's going on. And that's where it leaves you at. Like I said, it leaves you at a cliffhanger that makes you want more of the series. So that's it for this episode. It was another great episode, but this time it was only 1 hour episode, maybe a little bit less. I'll just expand it to an hour. So the first one was a double episode to get the series started, but from now on it's about an hour each, maybe a little bit less than some of them. But out of 10, I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. It's very strong. It's a strong episode, and it brings you. You want to have more episodes, like I said, so you want to continue on with the series from this one, and it is pretty gruesome and a lot of action going on. So there we have it. That's it for this episode. Go ahead, if you can, go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/DVD Review Dude. I would appreciate you if you go ahead and like that page. Go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube. I would love to have more followers, and hopefully the more followers I get, maybe I'll do a live video, live review, and make it a little bit more interactive with everybody. I would love that. So, all right. Until next time, we'll cover episode 3 later on. Until then, have a good day, and thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. And I totally recommend watching this series, watching first episode, watching second episode. All right, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.